Welcome to Dixie
and the King. I'm an Elvis tribute artist, rocking the cradle with a much younger wife.
and we are coming together to figure out this thing called life.
Take this journey with us through our unique and fascinating relationship as we tackle marriage, parenting, and spirituality.
We find ways to live a better life through our experiences and learn from professionals and everyday folks along the way, and how to thrive in today's world.
And welcome back to Dixie and the King. My name is George.
And I'm Dixie Gray.
Thank you so much for tuning us in. This is podcast number dos. And we're so excited because we have so many podcasts lined up with some amazing guests. But I don't want to jump the gun too far. But we really appreciate you tuning in. And as always, check us out on our website, dixieandtheking.com, of which I must admit, Dixie did a great job putting together.
Yeah, like one of my first experiences, so just give me some grace.
Yeah.
I'm going to get better at it.
It'll get better. I mean, she did a great job. But anyway, so that's our website. And of course, if there's something you'd like to know a little bit more, or suggestions, or some feedback, we always like feedback, positive or positive.
Constructive criticism is
Constructive
always
criticism.
nice, yes.
Contact at dixieandtheking.com. Okay, so this podcast is one that is something that a lot of people are curious about our relationship, and that is age is just a number, right? So we're going to dive into that question. A lot of people see us, and a lot of people think I'm her father. Actually, I don't know if it's that. I think they think you're my daughter.
Yes.
Either way, this is all about the age difference between Dixie and myself. So I guess we should probably lay the ground rules, well, not rules, but just the information first, and that is, what is the age difference?
Well, I think you told me that you were 40, so that should put us right about a 5-year age difference. Is that right?
20 years ago, I was 40 years old. Yes, I'm 60. I'm 60 years old, and Dixie is just slightly younger than myself.
At 35.
35 years
Yes.
old. 25-year difference. How does it work? How did it start? So we'll just get right into it. Dixie, do you have questions you want to ask me, or you want
Well,
me to...
yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people look at this, and there's the stereotypical younger woman dating an older man. Older man has a lot of money, and she's just looking for a sugar daddy, and that is clearly what this relationship is based on, don't you think?
No,
No.
because she's the sugar mama.
I don't want to break...
I work for a radio station.
Right.
I'm an Elvis tribute
Right.
artist. That
So,
doesn't make a lot of money.
I don't
I'm
want to
only-
break anybody's heart, but yeah, I guess when I got into this, I thought that Elvis tribute artists and DJs made a little more money. Turns out that wasn't the case, but it was a little late and I fell for him, so here we are. No, I just kind of wanted to get in and look at that aspect. So what is it that drew you to me?
Well, I first met Dixie when she graduated from high school, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to marry that woman. No, I'm kidding.
Disclaimer, please
Yeah.
Don't
We're not going to turn this
take
into...
everything that he says seriously.
We're not going to turn this into some kind of a creeper thing. But so I think I need to back up on how we met a little bit more. I know in the first episode we talked a little bit about that. So
Yeah.
as she mentioned, and as you probably know by now, I'm an Elvis tribute artist, and I work for a radio station. I've been doing Elvis since the early 2000s. I have a big band for the big shows, and we do small shows. I do solo acts for assisted living centers, which I really enjoy. Go there and I set up a little sound system and do about an hour's worth. I talk a little bit about Elvis's life and trivia and sing a lot of his songs. And so Dixie started coming to my concerts, and I can remember her. I don't know when we officially met. How many concerts of mine did you come to?
I think we officially met after the second one.
Second one, okay.
Yes.
And
I sat up in the front row
Yeah.
for both concerts.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think, so she came up to me afterwards. The one thing that I required, not only myself, but also my band, is we're so appreciative that people will come and watch us perform that we want to meet them afterwards. and greet them and thank them. If they want to buy a picture or DVD, we got that, or scarves or whatever it is. But really, it's our way of, after the wonderful show, is just to thank them. And typically we have huge long lines of people that just want to,
Forever long.
which is very humbling. I can't imagine people would line up to see what we do. But having said all that, so Dixie approached me after one of my concerts, and at the time she worked for a foster agency, and she wanted to hire the band. And I said, yeah, we'd love to do a benefit concert. Well, over a period of several months or so, that just wasn't going to work out. Trying to find sponsors to bring us up there, and that's not like we wanted a lot of money for it, because we'd love to perform. That first and foremost, we don't do this Elvis thing as a moneymaker. It can be, but you have 16 people you're writing a check to. It's not a big one. But anyway, having said that, it's a comfortable life. Let me put it that way. We just couldn't make it work to get even a small band of 10 or 12 up there with some accommodations and pay for the gas and that kind of thing. It just wasn't going to work. So when I first met Dixie, I can remember the first concert because she sat up front. As a matter of fact, I think they took a picture of me holding your hand and giving you a kiss on your cheek, which is all part of the Elvis thing. I don't do it. I do it for, I don't care what age they are. If they come up, they're going to get touch my sweaty forehead and get a sweaty scarf or whatever it is. It's all part of the shtick of the Elvis thing. Dixie has an aura about her that is, it's very comfortable. She has the dark hair and the dark eyes, which I like. She has a beautiful smile and a great personality. So when I first met her, I just remember briefly that you were just really cool. And so we established this friendship. So who did I tell first about my relationship? I think it was my friend Jim. Because I was coming off of a relationship that was coming off of another relationship.
That probably came off of several others.
Probably so.
But anyway.
Anyway, having said all that, I think his reaction was, she's got 2 kids. Isn't there a lot of baggage to that? I said, I don't know, because I haven't met the kids at this point in time, which is really cool, and we'll talk about that shortly. So I think his reaction was, wow, well, I'm happy for you. So he didn't see anything wrong with that, and I don't know that we really got into the age aspects of it. I think they kind of knew that maybe she was a little bit younger. And let me put this out there real quick. I'm not the kind of man that's looking for a relationship strictly with a younger woman. My relationship is all about being comfortable with the person, having some form of connection. And I think the thing with Dixie was that our interests are very similar.
Right.
We love to travel, and that's an episode coming up. We love the Lord, so the spirituality aspect. And I think, to be honest with you, I think that was probably the biggest thing, because in my life at that particular time was slowly starting to change. My spirituality, my religion, if you want to call it that, was slowly starting to change. So she actually kind of helped foster a lot of that. We were able to talk about our spirituality, and it wasn't awkward for us to pray before dinner or afterwards, or talk about God. So now it was time. Our relationship's moving a little bit forward. We know that this is something that's really cool. And then I slowly get introduced to her children in a very safe setting, but very limited, because I went through that as well with my daughters. I didn't want to introduce them to people that I might be seeing or dating or going out for drinks or something. I just didn't want that revolving door of strangers coming in and out. And then there's the safety aspects of that as well. Maybe not so much on my end, but as far as on males' ends, and she'll get into that in just a little bit. So now we have this kind of relationship, and I can remember telling my folks, because Mom, they live in Arizona, and we talk several times a week at least. And, and I would say, hey, I'm kind of seeing a lady, and of course moms they have all the questions.
Yeah.
And I said, well, she's a little younger, and she goes, oh, really? How young? I said, well, there's about 25-year difference. And, she was silent there for a little bit. She goes, well, if you enjoy spending time with her and she enjoys spending, she goes, I don't see anything wrong with that. And I got to tell you that when we first started seeing each other, I really didn't see the age difference. I didn't see Dixie as a very young 30, because when we first met, you were how old? 32, 33, 30-ish. Anyway, I didn't see her as, I didn't see that age in her, because Dixie's life story, she grew up, and it has an old, I don't know if an old soul is the term.
Well, that's what I would say is I've
Yeah.
always kind of been an old soul. I kind of struggled being a kid. I didn't know how to play with other kids. I would rather be at the table with the adults.
Right.
That's just
Right.
who
So to
I
make a long
was,
story
yeah.
short, she didn't seem 25 years younger than myself. So I never looked at that as our communication started, as we started hanging out and going to dinners and those kinds of things. I never saw the age difference. But then she's young with still has no wrinkles and those kinds of things, to where with myself, I'm getting up there, and there's probably some things she's starting to notice. Good. Anyway, so now I had to tell my daughters. So my daughters have always been real protective of me and my relationships. And I've been really good about not introducing them, once again, even as they become young adults, not to introduce them so much to my friends that I was hanging out with. But as I knew that this was something that was really special, and not that the others weren't, but this one, there was just more of a connection. So telling them, they took it okay for the most part. I think they did. My youngest daughter, maybe a little bit, she had a little bit harder time with it, and I think mostly it was because maybe another woman might be taking her daddy away from her in the extent of spending more time. I love my kids. As you can imagine, my relationship with them is we're extremely tight, but we also have that really close bond of that daddy and daughter relationship. And each one of my daughters, it's a little bit different, but with my youngest, probably it's a little closer, because I think she was younger when we split up. So they were kind of go, okay. But I do know that when we first met with my daughters, that they weren't standoffish as much, but they were really watching.
They were pretty quiet. Yeah.
They were quiet, but they were really watching the interaction that we had with each other. And I can remember, taking my youngest to lunch and just said, just so you know, I'm still your dad and I'm still going to be around, just to emphasize that kind of thing. And over a period of time, I think I don't know that they see the age difference, but they really love you. I know that they do. Yeah. And that's always the difficult part, is how is the children of the other parent, are they going to accept you? And so for me, with Dixie's daughters, is I'm not the replacement father. They have a dad, and he loves them dearly. And I can remember when he and I first met, that I pulled him aside and said, I just want you to know, I'm not their father, but I want to be a positive male role model. So I'm going to do everything I can to be there for them for that. I'm not going to tell them I'm their new daddy or any of that. And they don't even call me dad, which is fine. They call me George.
No, I wouldn't have gone for that
so
either.
My whole thing was just to be that positive male role model around them. But me dating a woman with younger kids, I don't think it was ever an issue, to be honest with you. I think a lot of guys would probably run, just because,
that's what I expected.
particularly when you have the age difference, because I already had my kids. They're adults and they're off on their own, and so it's I'm the single guy with no kids, and here's a young woman with two kids. Was that a deterrent, or was there anything that would make me think maybe I shouldn't be doing this? But there never really was, and I think because in our relationship when we started out, because her kids were not in the picture, it was just about formulating and making this connection realizing what kind of a great mother she was and how protective of her kids were as well.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, the initial draw to George, I mean, I grew up a huge Elvis fan. I just joke that in my family, you either loved Elvis or hated your life because, my grandfather, he was really the one that instilled it in us. He loves Elvis. He's been to all of George's concerts. And he just really talked up what a great performer he was. So I eventually got there and went. And we met again. It was strictly a friendship. We talked on occasion, very rarely until I moved back to the Greeley area, to the northern Colorado area. And at that point in time, we were both single. We started talking a little bit more and just developed a friendship. And again, it was just easy. I certainly was not looking for a relationship. I didn't want to be with anybody. I just wanted to be alone and start my new life and raise my kids and have a new job.
Yeah, she came over in a pickup and all of her belongings were in the back of the pickup.
Yeah, it was a scary time for me. But, always a new adventure when you start off on those things. But anyways, that was obviously my initial draw was, oh my gosh, he's this great performer and I'm having a great time. And then when I got to know him a little bit more, he just had a great heart. So we started doing dinners together. Hey, let's go see a movie. We didn't have anything to do. I never involved my kids at the beginning. And I can remember, do you remember the first question I asked you when we decided to maybe start dating? What did I ask you?
She wanted to know if I'd ever been arrested. Mm-hmm. Because, tell them your background.
So I work in the field of child protection, and I gotta tell you, it's always mom's boyfriend. Always, you hear these awful stories, and it's always mom's boyfriend, and I'm like, that's not gonna be me. Yeah. And I wanted to do, obviously, there's sometimes you just don't know, and you can take all the precautions, but that was my big thing, is I asked him, have you ever been arrested? And I said, and I will check. And I did.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. I remember you asked me if I've ever been arrested, but I don't know you ever said that. Well, I'm going to check, so you better tell me the truth. I think no. I think you just asked me, have you ever been arrested? And of course, I said yes, I had, and it was it wasn't anything bad. It was a credit card debt that, and I don't remember honestly where it came from. It could have been mine. It could have been a shared one with my ex or something, but. I remember the day I got arrested because I had just started working in radio, and there was a knock. It was a Sunday night, Sunday evening, and there's a knock at the front door, and I open it up, and it's two sheriff deputies, and they're looking at me, and they have a piece of paper, and it said, "Are you George Gray?" I said, "Yeah, I'm George Gray. Yeah, we have we're here to arrest you," and I can remember standing there going, "What?" Because I'd never been in trouble. Yeah. I mean, I was mischievous growing up in my youth, and there back in the day when when you couldn't get in trouble for drinking and driving, and that's some other thing. But in my youth, there was a lot of that. It was the culture, and what was going on at the time. But anyway, I can remember I said, well, come on in, let me get dressed and put on some shoes. And the whole time I'm thinking, this is kind of weird. And we go out and they handcuff me and they put me in the back of the squad car. And we're driving off to jail. And the whole time I'm thinking, oh, this is really weird. This is kind of cool, actually. I'm getting arrested for something because I knew it wasn't anything. Anyway, so I found out that, yes, that there was this, I had missed a court hearing of some sort. They had supposed to email you these things, and then because I didn't show up, there's a warrant for my arrest. But it was all financial thing; it all been taken care of, and it wasn't on my record. I knew, but I also was one that she asked me the question. I said, well, sure, because I almost wear it as a badge of honor, to be honest with you. But so I answered correctly, and she checked up, and I can't remember if it was even.
It's not even on his record, but I did check up. I just wanted to make sure before I introduced my kids to him that I knew that this was going to be a thing, because I did not want men in and out of their lives. I just wasn't going to do it. And I do remember really asking him, really? Do you want to start over again with two little kids? Like, your friends are off traveling. They have no cares in the world.
Getting close to retiring.
They go and do whatever they want to do. And you really want to start over again? And he very seriously looked at me and said, yes, I do. and so that was really cool. And he has been great with my kids. He is very much more creative than I am, so he was a lot better at playing dolls. And I mean, he was down on the floor playing dolls.
I did it with my daughters.
He has more energy than I do. At the end of the day, he's still running up and down the stairs and chasing the kids, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm tired. So, you know, when you talk about the age difference, we're not living in a fantasy world. We really talked about, you know, because I had a lot of people say to me, well, you know, when you're 50, he's going to be 75, and, you know, what's that going to look like? So we really talked a lot about that. Like, what is that going to look like? And is it worth it? And the reality that I might one day be a young widow. Those were all things that we really did sit down and talk about, and we thought about. When I told my family that we were dating, because my mom had also been to concerts with me, and so she knew who George was around town. They were unsure for a minute. For sure. They were like, do you really know what you're doing?
And I would be too if it was my daughter. I'll be honest with you, because you typically don't see things like this. I don't know that the intentions of a lot of men that are looking for a younger wife are pure.
Right.
To a certain extent. I know a lot of men my age are looking for younger women because a lot of them don't have baggage, but I think you make out of what it is. On the outside, if I look at Dixie, younger, very attractive, but has 2 kids. That's a lot of baggage. And an ex-husband, and an ex everything else, and family members. If you really think about it, I think a younger man probably would not have.
Well, and that's what I talk about. I come with, I have a lot of trust issues, just from my past. And so I thought that it would be a great idea to date an entertainer. Stupid.
Who she says women are always after. I never see it though, but anyway.
Anyways, when we first got together, that was really hard for me. And I still have moments that I struggle with trust and things like that. And I think, man, a guy my age probably would have been like, this is too much for me, I'm out. And so when we really talk about, like, what are the benefits of our age difference, and I think that might be one of them. Yes, I think it's part of George's personality. He's just a very laid back, like, we don't fight, and it's not necessarily because I don't try. I think there's some times where I just want to argue with him.
A lot of times it's communication, and women sometimes will start an argument just to communicate, because men we don't communicate very well. I mean,
right.
I think I do to a certain extent, but still, it's the way that we're built. We're problem solvers. There's an issue. She might call me up, and I'm sitting there going, okay, I can pick up the kids. I can do this. She goes, no, you're not listening, and we need to take a step back. And so the communication thing, we're just like any other couple. I think, we have. Well, we really don't fight, though.
That's the thing is, even if I start an argument, he'll say to me, like, well, when you're done, come here so I can hold you. And, sometimes that makes me so angry. I just want him to fight with me. But he just won't, and I think part of that is he's a little bit older and more mature, and he sees that what I might be so upset about in the moment really in the long run means nothing, and it's not worth the fighting, and it's not worth sacrificing a relationship or anything like that. So I've been really appreciative because he really has been very patient with me and with my growth and my healing. So that really is one of the benefits. When we look at, do you see any, like, what are some of the other benefits of our age difference? Do you see anything else different?
Well, I think, you're active, I'm active, so I think that's kind of nice. I'm not saying that there aren't older women out there that aren't active. I think for me, maybe it was just never presented to me, because we can take off and go hiking, and she likes to hike, she likes to go fishing, I think we just had a lot of go to the gym and work out, and that's another episode about what she does with her fitness competitions on occasion. But so the benefit is that I can't say it's an age. I don't think it's an age thing at all. I think it's just our personality and everything that comes together is what the benefit is, and I don't see the age thing. I mean, I don't wake up every morning thinking, man, she's 25 years younger.
Right.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't know that it ever played into my mind that, man, I'm hitting the jackpot because she's so much younger. That was never, because you can be with somebody that's younger or older or whatever, but it just doesn't work. You know, I understand why men my age would want to be with somebody that's younger, just because, you know, it's a younger body. You know, she doesn't have the wrinkles or the gray hair issues or all those kinds of
might
things.
have more than you.
But everything, all those things are really superficial.
Yeah.
Everything on the outside really doesn't matter. I mean, you want to make sure that they're pleasant looking to you. But it's what's inside. It's what she has in her heart and her soul and in her spirit and her character is what I'm attracted to as what I think it works. But there is a story that we were dating just shortly where all of a sudden we are going to Oregon for Valentine's Day, and this will be the first time. Had you met Jim?
I think I met
Jim. My best friend, Jim.
And his wife. And, but I hadn't really met any of his other friends. And so he takes me to Oregon. And little did I know, not everybody knew that I was coming. It was great because it was the first time we had gotten away together, and Oregon was beautiful and it was an amazing experience. But, you know, all these friends that had gone, they had all been friends since high school.
We're all the same age, you know, we're all old and wrinkly.
And his one friend who had the house where we went, her kids were my age. And so there was this moment where George and his friends are in the living room chatting about, you know, and showing pictures of all their high school days. And the kids
and
are
she wasn't even born yet.
True. And the kids are in the kitchen. And there was a part of me where I'm like, I don't know where I belong.
Where should I sit?
I fit in more with
should I sit in with the elderly people and listen to their stories of war? Or should I go in here and talk about Eminem?
Not Eminem. But it really was at that moment because I didn't know these people. I was like, oh my gosh. Now, I will say that since then, I've gotten to know all of them. And in fact, one of them I work with, and I adore them dearly. And that's the one thing I will say is when we first got together, people were like, what are you two doing? But as they got to know us as a couple, there was no question.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will tell us, you guys just fit together. You just belong together. And I think that we feel that too. Again, we're under no false pretexts that we won't have hard times in the future. And every couple does. And none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. And I think that's the thing, you know, we can talk more about this later. But when we decided to have a baby and people are like,
what are you doing?
I think you were 58 when Carson was born, and so it's like, okay, you'll be 78 when he's 20. He'll be 22 when you're 80. Is that really fair to him? And that's the one thing we really thought and talked about is none of us are guaranteed tomorrow, and I want to love and enjoy what I have right now because I know a lot of families who, unfortunately, the kids have lost their parents early in life. So no matter what his age is, we love each other dearly. We don't always get along, but it's not anything major.
I do need to back up because there's a story that Dixie will tell you about. It's one of our first dates. I was living in a condominium by the lake, and she came over, and I think this was early on.
It was pretty early on, and so he goes, well, let's just go walk around the lake because I wanted to be somewhere public. I didn't know. I mean, we had talked on the phone and stuff, but I didn't want to like go somewhere with him. So he goes, well, let's just go take a walk. I thought, all right. And it was like dusk and it was a little chilly. So he lets me wear his leather jacket. And I was like, oh, this is nice. We're holding hands, walking across the lake. And I think maybe I've watched too many murder mysteries because the whole time I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this guy could like rape and murder me and throw me in the lake and nobody would ever know. And so then later, after we've been dating a while, I tell him the story and he says, you know, you're not the first one to have said that. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh.
I had a lot of lady friends that weren't serious relationships, and there was a couple. You know, sometimes I would just like to get in the car and drive out somewhere, particularly when there's a thunderstorm, and just sit on a dirt road and watch the lightning show and that kind of fun stuff. And I did that once or twice with some of them, and you know, just as a little road trip, not too far out. But one of them said, "So you're not going to kill me and throw me out here?" And it's like, where does that come from? Do I have that maybe it's that Ted Bundy thing? I have the charisma and that kind of stuff that serial killers have. But so that's always.
So I did survive, and I'm here. So that's
fun
good.
story.
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about me meeting your daughters for the first time.
Yeah, so I had taken them to a couple of his like concerts in the park. They didn't know that we were seeing each other. The only time we'd go out was when the girls were hanging with their dad. I just didn't feel the need for them to have that before I knew we were serious. And so when I think I ended up bringing them over to your condo one day, and we just did like a little lunch. And my little Grace at the time, she's like 5 or 6 years old at the time, and she's sitting, George doesn't have any kids. His furniture is like pristine. There's nothing. I don't know how he is with kids too much at this point because he hadn't been around them. So she, unbeknownst to us at the time, etches her name in his kitchen table, which we still have. And I'm going, oh my gosh, this is over. We're done.
Yeah, because, maybe past experiences, there might have been a little anger or something that night. I look at it and go, it's just a table. And I think that's where the maturity aspects come in. When I was younger, maybe I would have reacted differently. I've always been somewhat of a cool-headed person. I don't allow too much to get at me. So, it's just a table. It's just a table. Now, if it was something that was a prized award or something that was broken, I might be going, ooh, but still at my age, it's kind of cool to sit back and really, really look at what is important in life. And the material things aren't as important. Yeah, you do have a connection to a lot of those things. You would not lose them or see them destroyed or whatever. But so after that initial one, I became very attached to her daughters. And once again, I'm not the father. I'm just the I wanted to be a positive male role model. And even now, I don't discipline them. Because, no, it's not.
And they don't, my girls, I know
kids.
Everybody says this, but my kids are really good kids, and they really don't require, they really haven't required too much discipline. It's like, I'll get onto them. I've had to raise my voice a couple times, and I'm not a yeller. So if I do raise my voice, they're kind of like, oh crap, what's going on? But no, he really does just have that connection with them. If one of them's having a hard time or whatever, I can remember a time where Grace came to me the night before a student council. She wanted to be in student council, and she came to me and said, Mom, I have to write a speech. And I said, okay, great, when's it due? And of course, it was the next morning. And so I'm like, all right, I'm not going to freak out. We're going to sit here and we're going to do this. Well, it didn't matter what I said to her. It was dumb. Yeah. Whatever Mom said was stupid. I was starting to get frustrated, and I would start to kind of explain things to her, and she looked at me and goes, that doesn't make sense. And I said, what doesn't make sense? All the words coming out of your mouth, Mom, they just don't make sense. And I was like, oh my gosh. He walks in the door, and I said, I'm done. She's yours. I'm tapping out. I'm done. And he's like, all right, cool. Grace, let's go get in the car. He takes her on a car ride. They come back. Her speech is written, almost the exact words that I think her and I had talked about, but whatever. So, he's able to really take a step back and be that, or if they're having a hard day, just take them and get their mind off things. Again, him and Holly can sit and play dolls. Because that's what she wants to do, is play dolls. And so he's a lot better at that than I am. He introduced her to Batman, because when he came into the picture, I have 2 little girls. We're watching princess movies and Disney and Sophia the First and Cinderella and all the things. And he's like, oh my gosh, I can't do it. I just can't do it. Holly, let's watch Batman. And
the original series.
Yeah, so she would dress up as Batman and run around the house. And
we just had a lot of fun.
It was really cool.
She doesn't do that as much anymore.
No,
she's
kind of a princess.
Princess.
But yeah, he's been really great about being very firm with his boundaries. I am not your dad, and I think that's allowed for them to have a closer relationship, because they don't feel like they're torn so much. Yeah, he does a really good job with that.
Yeah, so. I don't want that confusion. I think that's where I know in other relationships that I've seen where they try to establish, well, I'm the man of the house and I'm your daddy now, and I'm daddy number 2, and it's never that way, because kids, and she knows a lot of this because of her background, the psychology of children, and so I never came across that way as I'm still an authoritative figure naturally, but
right, they need to respect him.
I'm more of a supporter, I guess, maybe, in trying to show them this is how men should treat women. And that's not saying against anything. I just think little girls need to know, as little boys, you know, because we have a son
we
now.
have a son now.
And I want him to grow up to respect women, and particularly respect the mom, because I've seen relationships there where they, you know, the boys just don't respect the mom because they're daddy's boys. But that won't happen with our son. And the same thing with her daughters. I just want them to look up to me and feel safe and know that I love them, and that they can trust me, and I can be there for them if they need me. So
Yeah.
So another aspect, so now we're starting to meet the families, we're starting to meet the kids. Now it's time for her to meet the band. So, kind
I
of
think I might have met your band before you met my kids, but so he brings me to one of his concerts, and he brings me into, they always have like this meeting before they go on, and there's this prayer that goes on. So he brings me in, and I particularly remember Miss Kathy Horning, who is your one of your backup singers. Her husband Carl runs sound. Kathy's been a part of the band from almost the beginning, or the beginning. I specifically remember her face when I walked in, and
I introduced her, said, "Hey, everybody, this is Dixie." Not as my girlfriend, or not that this
but
is.
We were standing next to each other, holding hands. You know, it was pretty obvious. And she just looked at me like, what in the heck is this girl doing here? And I just will never forget the look on her face. And I hope that she comes on a later episode and she can kind of talk a little bit more about that. But
the band had met some of my other lady friends that I had over.
yeah, and again, they're like a tight-knit family,
They're
the
a
band,
family.
which is fantastic. And so I think they were looking at like, what is he doing
Is
with this girl?
Is she the new Yoko Ono? Is she going to break up the band? I think is what they.
So, but anyways, what's really cool about that is they've also become really close with
Oh, yeah.
your band members, and I think once like his daughters and band and people saw that I wasn't after him for anything other than I truly love him, and I want what's best for him, and so I think people look at us just differently now, because I remember when we first started dating too, we'd go to the grocery store together and we'd get, "Oh, George, is this your daughter?" And we got tired of hearing it so many times that we just started saying, yeah, I'm his daughter.
Yeah, that's my daughter.
It was just easier. So then we were just like, yeah, and we left.
And then we started putting wrinkles. We started putting wrinkles around her eyes and graying up her hair a little bit so she looked older. So community members, you know, there were a lot of people there who were going, so what's going on here,
Yeah.
you know? There's just a lot of curiosity with our relationship, which has been kind of fun. It's fun to sit back and look at those reactions, and sometimes we talk about them, but I think for the most part, I think people have been...
People have been really great. We really haven't had a lot of pushback. Just that initial, like, what are you guys doing? But again, I think once people meet us as a couple, they get it.
Yeah.
And I think any couple, right? It doesn't matter the age difference, but I do think, you know, people really hone in on, have I really thought about what this is going to mean for my future? And I have, and I know one day it's going to be super tough for me. And I know I'm going to have to deal with all that. And I chose this.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I made this choice, and I think, you know, looking back at that, do you remember a time when you were like, this is the one, I know I want to get married again?
You know, I don't know that it was like a flash moment. I just think that I felt really comfortable around her, and that was a good feeling. That was fun, and the things that we could do together. You know, I didn't have to compromise really. I really didn't have to compromise any of the things that I enjoyed doing, because keep in mind, I'm single and I'm able to do whatever. I could go and do whatever. And there was really no time to go, oh man, I can't do that because she doesn't like it. I mean, there are definitely some differences in some of our likes. You know, I like thriller movies and sometimes slasher movies and that kind of fun stuff. She may not be so much into that, and a lot of that has to go back to what kind of work she does in child protection and the things that she's seen, and those are other episodes that we're going to get into. But all I know is that from almost day one, it's just felt comfortable.
Yeah.
There was never a time when I stepped back going, oh man, I don't like this about this person. And it's something that I did after my first marriage. And it's not a jab at my ex-wife, because it takes two, you know. both people bring something to the relationship, and both people take something away, positive or negative. But I always had in my mind the things that I was going to look for in a relationship, the things that I would not compromise. Because I think sometimes you have to do that. Because if you don't, that little thing that irritates you gets infected, and then becomes a disease, and it just takes you out of being who you are.
Right.
You're trying to be somebody for them, and that's not what they need. Sure, it's comfortable for them, but it's not what they need, because eventually you're going to turn away from who you really are. So I don't know that there was the one time. I just know that when I did ask you, when I knew that it was going to come to this, I felt comfortable asking you if you wanted to get married.
Yeah.
So. And it's been great. Not that we don't have our issues, because we're just like any other couple, but we don't have a lot of the issues that
nothing major. It really boils down to communication. I think that's 90% of most couples.
Well, and faith. Communication or faith. I think faith has a big thing to it, regardless of what you are. For us being Christians and going by the teachings of what Christ puts out there, and the mercy and the love that we feel that God has given us. I think when you're in tune with that and you're trying to live your life around that, not that I don't think bad thoughts or sin in my head.
We're all still human,
we're
certainly not perfect.
No, but I think it's the part of us constantly wanting to be better. But I think our spirituality has really probably played a big role.
Yeah, and that was the one thing for me that I couldn't compromise on. When I was younger and I got involved in my first relationship, I didn't realize how big of a deal that was until it became a big deal. And so that was another thing, we can talk about later too, because he was Catholic at the time, I wasn't. But the
Where
big
I'm at
thing
now, what's going on with my Bible.
But the big thing for me was that he had a relationship with the Lord, and I knew that I wanted that in my marriage, and I needed that. I wanted my girls to grow up in the church and to know and love Jesus, and they do, and it's amazing to see, because I just think that it will carry them through their lives when I can't be there. But yeah, I think.
And her, she's also she has actually helped me become more connected with my faith, or with God. Actually, because
he has to pray a lot for me.
I look at the miracle of what she is and who she is, and I look at the miracle of her daughters and her family, and then of course our son. At this stage in time that we're recording this, he's 18 months old now, and so I look at him and think, oh, this is awesome. And I don't know how people cannot believe in a higher power when you look at a child or a baby, when you look at the heart of somebody like this, and knowing who she is and what she really cares for and who she really cares about. It's so that aspect has brought me closer to God, if you will, I think. So
yeah.
Anyway,
I think if you have questions about, we get all kinds of questions, so we would love to hear from you. Contact at dixieandtheking.com. If you have specific questions, we'll try to answer them. Show ideas.
So, in just real quick, age, is it just a number?
I think at this point, with the two of us in our specific example, it's just a number. I don't look at him as a 60-year-old man. I've certainly never been attracted. It's not like I was attracted to older men. I will say most of my relationships have been with guys maybe a year or two older than me or my age. It's not like I set out to date an older man. So, but having George in my life, I guess, going through and when I knew that we were going to get married, I just couldn't imagine my life without him. So that's really what it was for us. It wasn't some weird, I'm looking for a sugar daddy sort of thing.
I'm not a sugar daddy. I do okay.
But he brings so much to our relationship. He loves to cook, and he just has this great spirit about him. And if I'm having a really serious, hard day, I can call him and hear his voice, and he can make me laugh. So yeah, it works out.
And sometimes my voice makes her want to rip my face off too. So,
I think that's general. Any wife and husband.
We hope you enjoyed this. And once again, our website is dixieandtheking.com. And if you want to get a hold of us, it's contact at dixieandtheking.com. So until then, we look forward to chatting with you again. And our next episode is going to be a lot of fun because it's all about traveling.
During the COVID pandemic with a 1-year-old.
With a 1-year-old.
Sounds like a great idea, right?
Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Dixie and the King. We know there are possibly millions of podcasts out there, and we really appreciate you landing on ours.
We'd love to hear back from you with suggestions, episode ideas, and possible guests. If you'd like to connect to our guests, we would love to share their contact info with you.
Feel free to tell a friend and share our podcast with them.
To learn more and watch past podcasts, please visit our website, dixieandtheking.com.